buying these new cameras actually got me more into photography as well, which
Interesting.
that's a hobby that I enjoy now.
Well, I'd love to talk about that more.
Sure,
So,
yeah, yeah.
how did you kind of get involved in that? You just what okay, I didn't even know this is a creative hobby that you did, and I love asking about other creative hobbies.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what kind of photos do you like to take? How did you get into it? Like, talk to me. What is this?
So like obviously like when I'm looking into video equipment, all that stuff,
Right.
looking at videos, DSLRs was the thing people would get into a
Sure.
lot. Obviously, they were back in the day. DSLRs didn't really do video too much, but things
Right.
started to pick up, and those types of cameras, they got into more video focused things. So I looked into some. I got a Nikon. Don't even remember the model name, but I got a Nikon camera for video recording specifically. And then
Sure.
I delved way deeper. I fell down the rabbit hole of like cameras and lenses and all that
Right.
stuff. So I got a few lenses for that camera, and I would take it on trips because my family's from Iran. We'd go to Iran sometimes. Um, so I got into like photography while I was there.
Right.
And even now, I like to go on walks, take photography, or take pictures of like wildlife. I don't do
Sure.
it as often as I'd like, but it's just something
Right.
that I've really enjoyed over time after, kind of learning a lot more about cameras and what they can do.
Yeah. Well, and do you think there's something specifically about that medium that might attract you that you don't get in others? Like, I took a photography class, and it felt like one of those art forms was like, if I wasn't doing all this other stuff, I feel like I would choose this one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think a big reason for that for me was just this idea of entirely being able to capture a moment in time so permanently, in a sense, right?
Yep.
And that's kind of what drew me to it. I'm curious if you had something else that really, really makes you like photography over other art forms.
That's very much the same for me. Like just having that moment, you don't have to be perfect.
Sure.
Obviously, when you're taking photography, so much of photography is still editing.
Right.
Go into a program like Lightroom or whatever,
Yeah.
edit your photos. Like pretty much every photo nowadays is edited crazily.
Sure.
But just getting that moment and
Right.
being able to capture a single moment, even when you're looking at it on your camera, you're like, damn, that's cool. I was
Yeah.
able to get that. Like video is cool. There's motion and everything. And I do that as well in other
Sure.
other hobbies like video making, but getting that one specific moment, if you're like one picture I took at some point was just a bird flying above
Yeah.
water or something like that,
Right.
Once you snap your first bird just like flying, you're like, damn, that's cool. How did I do that?
Right. I think something I very much enjoyed was also being able to make something so beautiful out of even the ugliest of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be litter on the road, you could get the framing right and have good composition to have it actually be something that you enjoy looking at later. And I'm curious, do you take any photographs based on, would you say when you take photographs, it's more based on the content or the formality of the pictures, basically?
One thing I actually did, I think it was like 2 years ago now. I should do it again because it was really fun. But I asked Twitter. I went on Twitter. I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go outside and take some pictures. Just give me a word
Right.
or two, and I will try to take a picture based on that word."
Okay.
And so I forget, like somebody said like seagull, and I found
Sure.
a picture of a seagull on a U-Haul truck.
Oh, okay.
So I tried to like create something actually artistic out of that. It's a U-Haul truck, so it's not exactly a nice thing
It's
to
also
look at, but
a graphic that's already printed on a different two-dimensional surface, so you have to
Right.
find some way to make that interesting.
yeah. So I mean, that sort of thing is really fun to me, and that's kind of what I
Yeah.
try to do with photography. Is I find whatever I can and kind of try to make it look better than it actually is. I took a photo of a damn cigarette butt somewhere that I thought looked really cool.
Sure.
So
I mean, I don't want to get too much into my photography experience, but I very much enjoyed a photo walk that I took with a tripod. And this was for my class. I was still learning some things, and I thought I'll bring a tripod in case I need it. I found that I never wanted to use the tripod because I just wanted to, control it with my hands. So
Yeah.
I kind of looked like a fool, kept hauling over this tripod, never using it. And I decided to kind of make a narrative out of it where I would take pictures of the tripod in bizarre areas.
That's
and
cool.
Turned it into a photo book and wrote down like, where is my camera and stuff like that. Just a silly little children's photo book in a way.
I really like that idea. That's really
Thank
cool.
you. Yeah, no, I very much enjoyed it. And I'm always sad because we only have so much time on this earth, right? And there's so many other art fields that I'm interested in. I just happened to choose like video making and podcasting as kind of my main form, but had something else, had someone rolled a 3 instead of a 4 at some point, I might have been down the photography lane, right?
Yeah.
But I have another question about photography though.
Sure.
Do you fall under the camp of manual or auto?
Oh, definitely. Well, it depends on the situation, I think. But like, okay. Also, are you talking about like manual focus, manual like controls in terms of the ISO and?
Let's say, what extent of manual do you go?
Sometimes I'll go full on manual. I have some lenses that are manual focus only and manual aperture only. So I'll use that sometimes. Sometimes I go auto for like the wildlife type photography. When you're trying to capture like faster moving objects, I think having that automatic like focus and whatever is super, super helpful. But I usually using like all the like settings, ISO, all that stuff. Usually I stick with manual for all that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's not even so much that you'll always get a better picture because of it, but there's something that feels so good about like twisting everything, having that control. Like something feels like it feels almost more of a craft in a way.
Totally.
Even when sometimes the auto will look a lot better, right? And you'll end up taking so many more photos with manual because you're trying so many different like exposures and stuff like that.
You'll get a super overexposed shot one time and then underexposed another time, but then it feels so good to just pinpoint that right exposure. It does.
Especially when you see them lined up in Lightroom and you're just looking at like, oh, this one's clearly the winner. Like there's something satisfying about that.
100%.
And then another camp question I want to ask is, and this is less so of camp, but I'm just curious, have you delved at all into film photography, or have you mostly stuck with digital, basically?
It's been mostly digital for me. I have not really done anything with film. I'd love to try. That'd be very, very fun, but I have not gotten into it.
I've never gotten into it, but it's definitely something that because you and I both like manual, I think we'd both enjoy some of the aspects of putting the film in the liquids and stuff like that. Yeah. Messing with it. Totally. Anyway, I don't mean to stay on photography forever. Hey. I obviously just love it. So
that was something that I completely forgot about, weirdly enough. Like I love photography too, but just not in my headspace at the time when talking about this. I've been so focused on like the video stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, photography is something I'm really into as well.
Well, that's just one of my favorite things about this podcast is that us artists, we don't stick to one form. We always have something else that we're interested in, and just hearing interesting conversations about people who also compose their own music or write their own novels or write poems. And sometimes there was someone like animating and motion effects. You get to hear such specific art forms and open more perspectives on that, and that always excites me. Especially photography, because I actually got interested in that one. Still have yet to talk to someone who used to be a barista. You've never been a barista, right?
Nope. No, I have not.
Still waiting until I can connect with someone on espresso making, but Hey there. You just watched a clip from my creative podcast. If you'd like to check out the full episode as well as other episodes as soon as they come out, you can support me over on Patreon for the $3 tier, or you can just subscribe here and wait for clips and podcast episodes to come out eventually.